Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'd like to, have a calm video for this segment, but I want to give you my post-election perspective. Obviously Trump won, and the Senate is going to the Republican Party. It looks like the House is also going to be going to the Republican Party, but they're still counting, some, some local election results. So we won't know definitively about the House yet. But obviously Trump won. All right. And I covered it during the election night, and I was worried about a steal because yes, Trump was winning in some areas, but Pennsylvania, when I decided to stop the broadcast because it was already at 11:47 or something like that, 11:45 p.m. New York time, that I was a little tired, and I was just I was a little worried that I would be waking up in the morning and there was another steal. Right, I was concerned about it, but at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, it looked like the BBC announced and AP announced that Trump won. All right, so great. So I want to give you my perspective on the future of America. All right, and no, not everything, not everything is going to, start burning down, because of some sort of monkey release out of the lab. But I just want to have a calm, thought of where I think the country is going. But before I do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work by donating. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. You can also be a paid member on Patreon. These videos that I do are for free. It's through your donations that allows me to provide thousands of videos for free, all right, and to inform the public on how to improve their health. And also go to my store and get the products that help to support your health. I have many different products, and I tell you how to slow down the aging process, how to improve your cardiovascular health, how to improve your bone health, how to reduce or eliminate osteoarthritis. I tell you how to do a lot of things. All right. So if you just follow my lead, you will be okay. All right. And it's based on a very simple concept. You have to take charge of your own life. A physician is not going to do it for you. And if you don't do it now, you will pay later. It's that simple, and you want the compound effects of better, healthy living. And it's a holistic approach. Preventative medicine is medicine. So what you want to do is you want to have good mindfulness or spirituality. You need to do balancing exercises and stretching. You don't have to get too crazy about it, but you need to do it daily. You need to do a little bit of cardio. You need to do a little bit of weight training. All right. Do lots of walking when you can, and challenge your brain by learning new things. Read, write, and talk to people in the real world. All right. Not in cyber world, in the real world. And you will slow down the aging process. In addition, proper diet is very important. You need to filter your water. I use a filtration system that is a 5-level filtration system called Zero Water that you can get at Amazon or whatever. And so it's really important to filter your water, get those chemicals out of the water, and to eat better. Stop eating sugary foods and processed foods, and proper supplementation. And you'll slow down the aging process, reduce the chances of being overweight, reduce the chances of having diabetes, reduce the chances of having cardiovascular problems, reduce the chances of an overinflamed body. So if you follow what I do, your health is going to improve. So all you got to do is just listen and follow. And this is something that I've been doing for a very, very long time. Right? I was taking a lot of antioxidants and multivitamins going all the way back to age 16. All right. Because I saw a lot of family members die from heart disease. And the whole idea was to have a better lifestyle to mitigate that problem. All right. And over time, over the decades, new supplements have come onto the market, and the knowledge of how to stack them to have your supplementation be more efficient was learned, over the decades. Plus, you have this anti-aging movement that's happening in the United States. There's also a longevity movement that's happening in the United States. The preventative medicine and the publications from preventative medicine is coming out. You can literally reduce plaque by not being on, big pharma drugs, by changing lifestyle and taking a certain type of supplements. And you can reduce plaque, not just reduce your chances of building plaque, but reduce plaque. So just pay attention and you'll improve your health. All right. Why is it that there are so many people out there that, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I'll get to the whole post-election thing. But why are there so many people out there with, that in the United States that are sicker now than, let's say, 50 years ago? It's the food. It's the stress. But if you stop that and you live, and you supplement properly and you eat properly, you're going to mean revert back to a healthy life. We have lots of endocrine disruption in our food and in our water. And then on top of it, the stress of social media and the news and all this stuff and work, right? So we're not healthy. We spend so much money on healthcare as a society, but we're not healthier. And most of the physicians are idiots. Are they really solving your problem? Or do they just, or are they just listening to your problem and then prescribing a pharmaceutical? They're not really solving a problem. Very few physicians really care about your health. Very few. So all you got to do is take charge of your life. Now, if you listen to what I have to say, you can get healthier. But it's up to you. You have to make that move. So please go to my store and get some of the supplements that I have. It's based on a pillar. This concept is neutralize pathogens, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. Then that's the core, and then you add to it. To neutralize pathogens, take max 35 or max 14. This will neutralize the pathogen and maintain that mucosal barrier and have good oral hygiene. Just take a teaspoon of this a day. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a tablespoon or two a day. Just swish it in your mouth, gargle, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and swallow it. Well, the market opened up. Today is Fed Day, so I'll be doing something on that too. But go to the store and get the max 35 and the max 14. In addition, it's really important to have a good probiotic. And I have two different probiotics, if I can find it. I have a powdered form, and I also have a veggie cap form. All right. Some people prefer the powder. Some people prefer the veggie cap. I prefer the powder because I mix it with my lunch, my hummus, and it's a great way to take the probiotic. But a good probiotic is going to reset your gut biome, and you're going to have better metabolism, and you're going to reduce inflammation in your gut. You're going to have better communication between your gut and your liver. And a healthy liver helps to detoxify. A healthy liver helps to metabolize. And the communication between your gut and your brain. A lot of people don't realize a bad gut biome, there's more chances of depression, and there's more chances of having problems with mental acuity. So to improve your mental acuity and to reduce the chances of depression and to have more energy, take a probiotic and improve the health of your gut biome. So get the powder version or the veggie cap version from my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right. So with that said, what I want to do is talk about the post-election. And let me sit down here because I just, this is kind of like, it's not a get riled up kind of video. All right. The United States has gone through some tumultuous times. All right. And if you've been listening to my John Hogue shows, especially recently. We've been talking about John Hoke talks about how the United States is in line with the movements of Pluto, all right, and that Pluto just created a new cycle, all right. Trump is going to be the president that ushers in the 250th anniversary of the United States. So the United States is 250 years old. So, um, and we just completed this cycle. Now, in the videos that I've been doing with John Hogue, the question was, is the United States, since it's created its first cycle, because it's tied to Pluto, is it in the second cycle in the decline or in the ascent? And I think that this election, at a metaphysical level, was a choice between an ascent or a decline. If the Democratic Party won, then we would see more of a socialistic and a more socialism and more erosion of our constitutional freedoms. Because you got to remember, what was the genesis of the United States? It's the Constitution, right? So, fortunately, it was the Republican Party that won, and it's really not a Republican Party per se. It's really something different. Trump is not a Republican nor a Democrat. Something different. It's tied to kind of like the green. It's tied to the Tea Party movement, but also kind of like the Ross Perot. But it has its own. I want to kind of use the term pragmatic. I think it's the pragmatic party. It's not a Republican Party. It's not a Democratic Party. It's something different. And when the United States first formed, we didn't really have a really good, delineation when Washington decided to run, and then he wins the presidency. I don't think it was as defined as what a federalist was, and what a Democrat was, right? It kind of formed, I think, after his or during his first term. I think it's really when it started to it started to coalesce these different parties, and the infighting that was taking place between Jefferson and Adams. But the United States was at a fork in the road during this election: ascent or descent. Lose constitutional freedoms, or have something that is a little bit more lofty, something bigger than ourselves. All right. The United States kind of represents opportunity at the individual level, but there is an amalgamation of that opportunities within the society that leads to something which is bigger than ourselves. There are some similarities, I think, of the 1960s with what's going on today. I've always felt that Trump had a kind of a Kennedy aura, a JFK aura about him. But he also has an aura of Washington, George Washington. And he also had an aura of Reagan. All right, so it was kind of, when you have these soul roots that kind of get recycled, or personalities that come onto the political scene, it's not exact mapping of a previous era. It's a rhyme. It's fuzzy. So Trump is kind of an amalgamation of Reagan, George Washington, and Kennedy. Right? Now, why do I say George Washington? Well, we just created we're in a new cycle in the United States because of this completion with Pluto, right? And if you want the details of it, you can listen to the shows with Hogue that I've done with the recordings. I think we just finished our part 22. We'll be doing another one this Sunday. So part 23, and we'll go over post-election stuff. But I feel as though because we're in the new cycle, and Trump is the president, that there's a Washington-esque moment here. In addition, Washington on the battlefield was almost killed multiple times, but some sort of divine intervention came in to prevent that from happening. Something similar happened during, this election cycle with the assassination attempts on Trump. So there's that similarity. But there's also there's a Kennedy part to it. And the reason why I say the Kennedy part, one assassination attempt on Trump, obviously there was an assassination of Kennedy, but they talked about deep state. And the deep state, both presidents were attacked by the deep state. All right. And both want to take down the deep state. So there's that element to it. In addition, Trump wasn't always a Republican. He was a Democrat before. And the Democratic Party is no longer a Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is like more like leftist, more like a Green Party, or, some sort of Communist Party or Socialist Party. It's not a JFK, RFK Democratic Party. It's something different. And I don't think it's for the good. Now, so there is this, there are these similarities, right? And when you add in during the 60s, what was happening? A Cold War. There was this new Cold War that even Neil Ferguson talks about, Cold War 2.0. Well, there's this Cold War that's going on with Russia, right? And NATO expansion. JFK warned us about, maybe we shouldn't be expanding so much in these regions, and that was the reason why he took out some of these missile systems out of Turkey with this agreement with de-escalating the Cuban Missile Crisis. So he was trying to prevent nuclear war. He saw the Cold War as a dangerous episode of an elevated risk of nuclear war. I see Trump in that kind of respect. Now, obviously, JFK was more eloquent than Trump, but they have similar themes. During the 60s, there was also, this exploration to the moon, right? And rocketry development. What's happening today? The rocketry development by Elon Musk with SpaceX, and the amazing things that SpaceX can do. Not only, land vertically, these booster systems, but, pushing the envelope for exploration and colonization of the moon and Mars. Very lofty things. There's not the ethos of the United States. The ethos of the United States is this thing, this bigger than life, big ideas, reach for the stars kind of stuff. That American exploration, what's over the horizon, the big stuff, right? The Democratic Party has a tendency to just look down to the ground. And when you just look down to the ground, you're just going to have a society that is moping, and you have a society that's non-productive, and you have a society that's not looking at the big ideas. Universal income is not a big idea. Colonizing Mars is a big idea. See what I mean? See the difference? And so what we're seeing with academia, and especially the elite schools, like, let's say Ivy League and Ivy League Plus. You know, many of the students are from from the perspective of not the hard sciences. They're coming from the soft sciences. History, and history is important. And I enjoy history, but a lot of the students aren't STEM. They don't come from a STEM background. And when they go into industry, or when they go to, start working professionally, they're not in engineering or in the sciences. A lot of them, most of them, they go to finance, or they go into law, or they go into, some sort of liberal art kind of a job. All right. And they, in these kinds of jobs, even though, when you need a lawyer, it's important, or, but the thing is that the big ideas are created by the scientists. The big ideas are created by the engineers and the entrepreneurs and the inventors, the ones that are really pushing the envelope. And Elon Musk is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Immigrant to the United States, had a dream, and he just built SpaceX, right? From almost nothing. I mean, obviously he made money through PayPal, but he took big risks to build SpaceX and Starlink and Neuralink and Tesla and all this stuff. He almost went bankrupt. He put everything on the line. And I'll tell you, that's kind of like the American spirit. The American spirit is take risks. When you think about the Democratic Party, it wasn't about taking risks. It's about socialized risks. And you're mitigating the personal risk. So what happens is no one's really pushing the envelope. So with Trump winning the election, I feel as though there's a new dawn. And it's a new dawn because it's also the 250th anniversary coming up. But we've completed the Pluto cycle that our country is tied to. So, and then you have this figure bigger than life. I mean, Trump's bigger than life, right? Well, George Washington was bigger than life too. Now, of course, Trump is not 100% George Washington. That's why I was saying that Trump is slightly like George Washington, slightly like JFK, slightly like Reagan, right? Because we are a Fibonacci sequence of a prior era, the 250th era. So we just went through this election, a rebirth of the United States, very similar to the beginnings of the founding of our country. Or in the context of the UK, the birth of the Magna Carta, right? And how it set in motion a different system of government between the people and the monarchy. Well, here, I feel as though this 250 years is now down the path of prosperity and exploration, not moping and turning into a super socialistic society. I don't want a socialistic society. I want a society where people are taking risks and pushing the envelope and doing big things. Colonizing Mars is a big thing, right? So, and go even further. What can Americans do? That's the American spirit. I feel that was what was on the ballot. That at the metaphysical level, that's what just happened. And so you have, individuals moping and all this stuff. But the reality is that America is going to be doing something big. And in our lifetime, not 100 years down the road here, we're talking 10 years down the road. Some of it is in 5 years, especially this rapid pace of development with artificial intelligence. Now, there are some dangers, especially with artificial intelligence, the decoupling of labor and all this stuff. When you look at it, what will people do if artificial intelligence takes all jobs away, do people become more creative? Do we build more businesses, or do we spiral down? I just have this feeling that the next 250 years for the United States is not in a decline. It's going to be in ascent. But that's because of what just happened. America picked take risks. Don't be socialist. Stop doing the woke crap. Embrace merit and move forward. And just think big. And the bigger the better, right? Why don't we have more Elon Musks? We need more Elon Musks. Just think big. That's America. All right. So I think that, and then another concept that I see here is that during the revolution, obviously there was the Declaration of Independence, but there was things that were evolving before, things were brewing before the Declaration of Independence, right? With the Stamp Act and, taxation and all this stuff, right? And the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution and this distance between the colonies and the monarchy in England. So there were things that were brewing. But eventually it came to a crescendo, and the Declaration of Independence had to be created, right? For, some sort of an independent landmass. But many people, even the founding fathers, many people did not want to, distance themselves from the monarchy. They wanted to be English, but the English didn't want the Americans to be English. So there was this fracturing, and then eventually we have the Declaration of Independence that leads to a war, right? And then winning the revolution and the Constitution. Right? So we were forged in this idea of the old world being jettisoned from our ethos, and then a new beginning. And that's the beginning of that cycle with Pluto. So we are tied astrologically, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I mean, John Hogue knows way more than I do about this topic about the Pluto thing. But the point here is that it was the beginning of a big thing, and we chose to go in the right direction and not stay in the old world. And we became something big, right? If you look at England, yes, they had Industrial Revolution, and they had the naval fleet to project colonial power, and businesses were built off of that colonial power. But the UK is still kind of like stuck in this old world, legal, a liberal art legalese world. It's more about law, common law. I mean, we have common law in our country, so we piggyback off of this. But I don't see England as like a really big technological country, right? I don't see it as a big engineering country. I see it as more kind of like, has a lot of history. And so the ethos of the UK seems to be not so much in science, but more in law, history, government, and war, right? In the United States, we do have a foot in that because of the common law, and our genesis is from England. But we also have a foot in industry, in entrepreneurship, and taking risks, and having a lot of resources and a lot of space, and to why are there a lot of, a perfect example of this, why are there lots of bands right? Music bands that come out of the United States. And why is like American music kind of evolves and changes, right? Well, there's garages. The simple concept of suburbia in a garage, the space to learn an instrument, build a band, create new music. The same thing, have the resources and the space to invent and to create big things, big ideas, you know, mass production of the automobile, rocketry, and space exploration, right? The nuclear power. These are big. Of course, there are negatives to these things too. There's pluses and minuses to any technology, depending on how you use it. But the point here is that Americans have the resources in the space, and we have one foot with England in the old world, but we also have a strong footing in this new world. And this election is about pushing the envelope and doing big things. Not little things, big things. So, yeah, I'm very positive about what happened. I would be feeling the opposite if the election turned the other way, because I think this 250-year anniversary is an inflection point, and it's an inflection point of utilizing our resources, our know-how, our entrepreneurial spirit to do big things instead of being hampered by socialism and communism. So another country that I want to use, compare and contrast. So we had England, which is too legalistic and too burdened by its own history and war. With the United States, it has a foot with England, but is also entrepreneurial and industrious and scientific. And then you have China, right, which destroyed its culture through the Cultural Revolution through Mao, but is very scientific, right? So you have you have the spectrum. This is an important concept that I'm trying to convey here. You have the spectrum, low ethics, but scientific with China, and a lot of manpower, right? You also have, on the other side of the spectrum, very legalistic, burdened by history, and not so scientific. But there is this, because they talk about laws and philosophy, the ethics is there. Now I'm sure that people will debate how ethical the UK is. That's a different topic, but you kind of get this feeling that there is England is closer to Aristotle, and some of the giants of Greece, in terms of philosophy, than, let's say, China is, right? And the United States is in the middle, right? It knows a little bit about the old world, New England, East Coast, New England, blue blood kind of stuff. But there's also that rural environment and that entrepreneurial environment and that scientific environment and the resources that allows America to be cutting edge. But China also can be very scientific, but it seems to me that it's lacking ethics, and it's a one-party system, and it's this communistic thing. So if you go against the party, so you don't really have civil liberties. So you have, our Constitution is founded on an old world concept of the Magna Carta. But there's really nothing like that in China. It's a one-party system. And you don't have civil liberties, but you have like this collective, this kind of like hive mind. And it can be very scientific, right? and kick out a lot of engineers, but are they really creative? Because they don't have freedom. If you don't have freedom, how are you creative? So there's this good blend in the United States of constitutional freedoms, and there's this good blend of resources and science, right, to be able to push the envelope, but have some ethics, have some legal basis of our constitutional republic. Don't have that in China. It's lacking. So you don't have the science, you don't have the entrepreneurial spirit anymore in the UK. You have that in the United States, right? So the United States is kind of the best of both worlds. It has that scientific, but it does have some roots in the old world tying to the Magna Carta. In the United States, one of the most important documents, some of the most important documents of mankind is, the Bible, the Magna Carta, the Constitution. Right? Those are like the top three. So I would say, we're in a good spot of seeing this inflection point, this transition going into the next 250 years of the United States, it being Donald Trump. And not, having this mindset of socialism, but this mindset of merit, this mindset of we can do big things instead of, well, why is it the socialists? Why is it that the Democratic Party was always demonizing Elon Musk? And it's not because of X, because they were demonizing Elon Musk before he bought Twitter. All right. Why? Because he is representing something, doing things big that everyone thinks is impossible to do. But yet, literally, he is showing you in real time it's possible. If you can dream it, you can build it. All right. You got to get to steps. You got to, learn, through failures, but you can get there if you pursue it. There's too many socialists, too many Democrats that just look down on the ground and not up into the sky and take risks. They want to everything has to be so, some sort of social gain and all this. Is the society better off giving reparations, or is the society better off thinking big and doing big things and making people just have more opportunity? I think the latter is better than the former, meaning take risks. Don't look for handouts, and you'll have a better society. That's what I see that just happened on November 5th. Now, it's not going to be an easy ride. It will not be an easy ride because we're actually trying. I think what's happening in the next few years is there's going to be a push to try to root out some of the nefarious activities of the national security state and the administrative state. Now, hopefully, Trump's administration is successful in rooting that stuff out and making the government more efficient. Just like any corporation has had to go through downsizing and restructuring, the same thing with our government. The bureaucracy of the government needs to be restructured. That doesn't mean rewriting the Constitution. It just means, right-sizing the government. I think it's too bloated. But I'm very positive about America in general. I think we just saw what I have been saying. This is our version of Gettysburg, and this is our version of the revolution. What we just saw happen, what put Trump over the edge, was Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is where Gettysburg is. In 1863, the United States almost lost. The Union almost lost at Gettysburg. Because Gettysburg isn't too far away from Washington, D.C. But the Union won. And that battle in 1863 in July. It started on July 1st, and it was for 3 days. And the smoke clears, and there's July 4th of 1863. Not, obviously not 1776, but the thing is that there was this remembrance of the independence. The winning on the battle allowed for peace on the battlefield of Gettysburg to remember July 4th. That's powerful. That's powerful. You had a group of people from the South that tried to secede from the Union and institutionalize slavery. And at Gettysburg, the Union almost lost. We may have not have had the United States of America if things changed, if things were different at Gettysburg. But somehow, some way, the Union won, and slowly over time, General Lee started losing ground, and Union forces were gaining momentum, and eventually the war ends. But a major inflection point was Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. Powerful, very powerful. And plus, with this cycle, this 250-year cycle that was just completed, it's in line with the revolution. The big ideas, stepping away from the old and getting into a new era. And when you couple that with where technology is, you can get a sense that America is going to be doing something big. Big. So I'm positive about it. But we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant on making sure that deep state actors, national security state actors, don't take away the essence of what America is. Big dreamers, big ideas, big entrepreneurs. So I just, that's my take on the post-election. I'm very positive about America, but there are some things that are bad about it, and we need to be honest. Just like how the Democratic Party needed to be honest on why they lost. They demonized too many people. They pushed too many woke agendas. They pushed too many socialistic agendas. People didn't want to buy what they were selling, right? And they veered off and moved towards a very leftist mentality instead of a centrist mentality. That's looking at it honestly, but many Democrats aren't willing to look at it honestly. So America's in a new day, in a new dawn. We're moving to big ideas, and we're going to be successful, but it's not going to be easy. You're going to have people that are going to try to hold you down, right? And you got to just say, no, we're moving forward. Now, you can be with us, or you're going to be left behind, but we're moving forward. So I think people, I'm very, very positive about America, but you got to look at it with wide eyes. And that is that there are aspects to American society that needs to grow up. And what do I mean by that? I got to plug in for the energy here, I'm running out of battery. Maybe I'll even take a message from Spaces if someone wants to talk. But the thing is, even though we won the election, we have to be wide-eyed and look at what's bad about America. All right, what's good about America? The entrepreneurship, taking risks, thinking big, and there's lots of opportunity. You don't have to go to Harvard to be successful. You don't have to. All right. What you have to do is be engaged. You have to get involved. You have to learn something, build a skill, and move forward. Right. How you get that skill, there's lots of ways. Some of it's self-taught, some of it's formally taught, some of it is going through some sort of an apprenticeship, whatever it is. All right. But you can do big things. But there's a lot of people in this country, in the United States, that's just sitting on the couch and just consuming. They're just consumers. They're not doers. There's only about 20% of the society is pushed through. Or let me rephrase it. There's 20% of the society is pushing 80% of the society, meaning that the doers, the ones that are really moving the society forward, is only 20% of the population, maybe even 10%. So you have 80 or 90% is you know, just following. They're not doing. They're kind of like just being lazy about it. Americans shouldn't be lazy. So that means in the inner city, instead of whining that you're in the inner city, learn a skill. Now, I'm not talking about b-ball. I'm not talking about basketball as a skill. I'm talking about learn something to improve your life, to improve your family's life, and move forward and think big. Because America has that opportunity, and it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter. It's about merit. But when you want to go into identity politics, then it's all about some sort of race, creed, and blah blah blah. Right? But that's not really what America is about. What America's about is taking risks and pushing forward. So that means that people need to learn skills. People need to not be lazy. People need to take their education seriously, formally and informal education seriously, and have some sort of ethics. I think the pillars are God, country, and family. Now, you may debate about that. What does it mean by God? Some people are atheists, but some people are agnostic. It doesn't really matter in my mind. But the thing is that you need to have some ethics and some sort of mindfulness. Now, some people that are more spiritual will gravitate to the idea of some sort of religion, right? But you need to have some sort of mindfulness or spirituality and some ethics. You have to have some patriotism. So it's about country. If you just shit on the American flag, you burn it, you view the society in discontent, then it's just negative. You're not moving forward, doing big things, big ideas, right? And then family is the cornerstone of society. So family creation is important. Now, there's different ways for family creation to happen, but the thing is that demonizing families is wrong because that's the bedrock of society. It's always been that way and always will be that way. So people need to kind of like have those three pillars in their life. But in America, there's the rap culture and the urban decay culture that's bringing Americans down, but trying to give strength to the Democratic Party because it's about handouts and it's about socialism. It's about I'm doing a broad brush here, but the point that I'm making is that every American, no matter what color they are, no matter if they're male or female, no matter what socioeconomic background you have, if you push yourself, you can get ahead. All right. But it's not going to be easy, especially obviously it's people that have socioeconomic wherewithal. If they're coming from a richer environment, it's going to be easier for them than the poor. But the thing is that the poor can elevate themselves. All right. So you just, instead of playing the b-ball, instead of wasting your time on stupid stuff, then, instead of wasting that time, engage in things that will make you more productive, more skill oriented, and do big things. Whatever it is. You want to create a media empire? Do it. You want to create a car company? Do it. But don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. People like that are black that are complaining about whites and this whole white supremacy stuff, and even women saying, oh, the males are subjugating females and blah blah blah. you know they just want to blame something, and it gets down to the root cause. They didn't work hard enough to elevate to where they want to be. The United States, you can do anything you really want to do if you put the effort into it. It's not going to be handed to you. And yes, of course, some people it's easier for whatever reason, luck, education, or money, but it can be done. Many billionaires, if that's what you want to be, many billionaires came from humble backgrounds. It's quite the opposite. The more, a lot of rich families, their offspring has a tendency to just kind of decline. It's rare to find a house, a household that's rich that maintains the wealth. So, so Americans need to look in the mirror and see, are you part of the 20% that's thinking big and doing big things? Or are you the 80% that's not? That's important. That's important self-reflection. And if you're in the 80% that's not, self-correct. Do big things. Don't blame people. Don't blame it on race. Don't blame it on education. Don't blame it on the deep state. Don't blame it on anybody except yourself. Because the American way is finding a way. All right. So, that's my post-election perspective. There's a little bit of astrology with it because of its link to the cycle with Pluto. We're coming to the anniversary of the 250th anniversary of the United States. Huge. That's a big thing. And we're moving in the right direction, but it will be bumpy. But when people self-reflect and go, are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? When people move into the category of part of the solution and moving and doing big things and moving forward, this country, there's nothing that can stop it. Nothing can stop it. With that said, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work by getting some of the supplements. I'll just, plug just a couple supplements here before I close out. But, we went through a tumultuous time in 2020. All right. A lot of people died for different reasons. Some of it because of, pathogens, some of it because of the treatments, some of it because of the inoculation. There's other people that are starting to have side effects of the crisis that we went through in 2020. All right. My mother died during the Omicron wave in a nursing home. It was one of the most horrific things I ever saw in my life. And I once in a while, that picture in my mind of seeing that horrific event, it kind of shakes me a little bit. But the thing is, you got to move forward. You got to move forward. All right. And you don't move forward pretending that it didn't happen. You move forward saying it did happen. And how do you mitigate the risks? How do you move forward? And you move forward by taking charge of your health. All right. So it's important. Trust me on this. The 2020 crisis has created different types of pathologies that are starting to emerge, such as weakened immune systems, turbo cancers, right? Other sorts of pathologies like tachycardia kind of syndromes where you have a speeding of the heart, you have sympathetic nervous system disruption, you have memory loss or memory problems. So there's lots of different pathologies that have emerged through, after the 2020 crisis. You need to take charge of your health. And I have done thousands of videos trying to tell people how to do it. It works. All you got to do is listen and follow what I am doing. I'm not just saying something, it's something that I do. All right. And the proof's in the pudding. It's working. All right. So please help support my work so I can continue to reach out to people and tell people my opinion on certain things, but also how to improve their health. I need your support. It's that simple. And you can support me by getting the products on my store and sharing the links that I do that are free. These videos are free, and helping the cause. I mean, maybe I should go on a tangent here for a little bit, but another element of what happened with this election that I forgot to mention was that during the founding of this country, of the United States, there were founding fathers. One of those founding fathers was actually a relative of mine. But this video isn't about me, all right? But the thing is that during the forming of the country, there were key figures in the 1700s. A lot of people know that, some of the famous ones. There was Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Adams, right? And Paul Revere and, Jefferson, right? Hamilton, Madison, right? Those are the big ones, right? But there were about 150 to 200 founding fathers, all right? Within that 150 to 200, 150 to 200 founding fathers that were tied to being leaders on the battlefield, leaders in drafting the Constitution, ratifying the Constitution. So there are these founding fathers. We have something similar that happened in this election. It's not a perfect match, just like how I said that Trump isn't a perfect match to Reagan. It doesn't perfectly map to JFK or even to George Washington. It's an amalgamation. Why? Because we're in a different era. But it's a fib sequence. It's a Fibonacci sequence. There's a similarity. Okay. So Trump has some elements of these different people: Reagan, George Washington, and JFK. All right, and that's what kind of makes up the essence of his soul, for lack of a better term. Well, you can see this in also other people that were in this election cycle, and even going from COVID to the election cycle. So I see like COVID, happening in 2020, right? And the election cycle of 2024 is this kind of era, right? And you had founding fathers being kind of resurrected. I'm using terms that have tried to explain the thought process that I have. It's not literally resurrection, but a rebirth of a soul. And you had people that that soul root was reborn into this age. And each of us did something different that was important for us to move forward in a positive direction the next 250 years for this country. All right. And different people did different things. And there are going to be many people that are below the radar that we don't know, that are kind of like a new founding father or a new founding mother, right? Because there were females involved in this too. So Trump is kind of like the George Washington figure. George Washington was almost killed on the battlefield multiple times, but some sort of divine hand helped him. All right. Something similar happened with the assassination attempts with Trump. you had kind of like during the COVID era, the sounding of the alarm was really me. You know, I was the one that warned the world at large what was happening and that it was going to erode your constitutional freedoms and hurt people physically, and that there was going to be an aftershock. And everything I was saying played out. All right. But I also gave you methods to try to mitigate the problem. So perhaps, I don't know for sure, perhaps I was the Paul Revere, because obviously Paul Revere, was a key figure in during the revolutionary period, right? So maybe my soul root was reborn as Paul Revere. I don't know, but there was something about COVID that led to this 2024. So maybe Trump is sort of like Washington. Maybe Dr. Paul Cottrell is somewhat like Paul Revere. Bannon may be someone like Thomas Paine. Maybe. Maybe he's a different figure. But the point that I'm making is there were these people that were involved. Their soul root was involved during the revolution that somehow emanated into people that are living today to do big things. It wasn't easy to do what I did in 2020, all right? By far, it wasn't easy, all right? But I knew that it was the right thing to save my country. There were other people, like for example, this Scott Pressler, I think is his last name. He's the one that got the vote out for Pennsylvania. He basically made, he basically would put the effort in so Trump could win Pennsylvania by getting people to register to vote. And he did an amazing job. He saved the country. He lived, I mean, using that metaphor of, our Gettysburg, Gettysburg's in Pennsylvania. Gettysburg was an inflection point of winning this, moving, changing the dynamics of the Civil War for the Union side, and eventually winning. But Gettysburg was really important. Pennsylvania is super important when it came to to the Civil War. All right. Scott Pressler has something in his soul is tied to a founding father during the Revolution. Even there's an aspect to it. It's like there he got the job done. Now, which founding father, which one, I don't know. Was maybe it was an aide de camp to Washington. I don't know. But the point here is that there were people that got engaged in the last 4 years, going through the COVID crisis and going through the election crisis, that they have a soul root that's tied to the founding fathers. But it's not a perfect match. It's not a perfect mapping. And this is the reason why these next 250 years is going to be good. But just like the last 250 years, there were ups and downs in the United States. But Scott Pressler, if that's his last name, he was a major figure to save the Trump election. A major figure. That's something revolutionary in there. Just like something revolutionary about Trump. There was something revolutionary in what I was doing with trying to save the constitutional freedoms and to warn the public about a major crisis that was on the horizon. Bannon is a founding figure, but I'm not sure exactly the mapping of how that works. Alex Jones is one, even though I'm not a big fan of Alex Jones. But the thing is that there are these people that are in American society. Even Nigel Farage, even though he's English, there were English people that were, during the revolution that were kind of on the side of the revolutionaries. All right, not on the side of the king. Now, of course, they were, behind the scenes and stayed quiet, but the movers and the shakers. But You know, there are these key figures that it's almost like there's something about their soul is connected to what was happening in the 1700s. I know I'm not wrong on this, but I can't map it completely. It's hard to do a 100% map of one individual living today mapping to an individual in a prior thing. There's something about there's an element of the soul that was ignited in people that are living today to allow things that have happened in the last 4 years and to be successful in trying to mitigate what was around the corner. And sometimes we were more successful, and in other times we were not. But the thing is that there's this something is different about this. You know, you hear terms like this is the battle for the country or the soul of the country. Viscerally, you feel that something big just happened. Just like something big happened in the 1700s. Right? Something big happened when the Declaration of Independence was written. In the Battle of Yorktown, right? Or Valley Forge, and the worry that Washington may lose the war. Those are big things. Something like that just happened. Something like that just happened. And there were people with whatever they were blessed with their skill set and their ability to project, in to an audience or to the world or to the country in their different ways. They all had a little component to this founding of a new era of this next 250 years. Everyone, if you get engaged, be active, and you push forward, and you think big, you can be that too. That's I think that point I think is really important. There are founding fathers today that allowed for the next 250 years to just happen. So again, please help support my work and boost up your immune system. All right, very important. And you can do that by getting lignans. It's a powder, and you mix it with food or with water, or with filtered water, or just mix it with food. I take this with mixing it with hummus, and this will help to boost up your immune system. And it's really important to understand that when we don't eat properly, we have a tendency to disrupt our endocrine system. And so you can mitigate that disruption by taking lignans. It improves your hormonal health, right? It's for males and females. They'll boost up your immune system and also improve your hormonal health. Very important, because that lifestyle, that typical unhealthy lifestyle, is causing problems with your endocrine system. But you can stop that by eating properly, filtering your water, and taking the supplementation to boost up your immune system and boost up your endocrine system. And lastly, before I close this session, Myotrol is a supplement to help build muscle, maintain muscle, and improve your mitochondrial health. That's important so you have ATP, because your muscles need a lot of ATP to be able to maintain and to gain muscle mass. All right. When we get older, we lose muscle. Part of the reason is we stop moving around and we have less energy. Well, if you take Myotrol, you're going to have more energy and you're going to be moving around. But it's really important to do some cardiovascular training, and it's also important to do some resistance training. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to run a marathon or train from triathlons or anything like that. Just exercise on a regular basis and take supplements that help maintain muscle mass. Now, this is an important supplement when you get older, but it's also useful if you are an athlete, because what this will do is it'll help you gain muscle mass. and have more energy, and you'll recover better after your workout. But ones that aren't athletes, you can benefit from this supplement, Myotrol, and you just do the resistance training, eat properly, filter your water, take the supplement every day, and maintain your muscle mass and gain some muscle mass. It's really important when you get older. I mean, I've seen people just atrophy as they get older in clinic, and it's just so sad. I mean, I even saw it, near the last few weeks of my mother's life. She was atrophying, in the nursing home. And you don't have, it doesn't have to happen. If you take care of your body now, there's going to be a compound benefit as you get older. So let's say you're 40, right? And you're going, well, I feel really good, well, you need to take supplements, and you need to have proper diet and exercise and proper lifestyle. So when you get to 65 or 70, you have a lot more vitality. You have more longevity. When you don't do that, even if you're relatively healthy at age 40, by the time you get to 65 or 70, you're starting to break down. You're starting to have cardiovascular disease. You're starting to have signs of memory loss. You're starting to have, bone mass loss and muscle mass loss. And your pancreas isn't working as well. And you start going downhill. Well, do you really want to go down that road? Or do you want to go down a road that is a little bit more, you have more vitality as you get older? There's no guarantee that you're going to live a long life, but the thing is that you can increase your chances of living a more healthy life by changing your lifestyle and doing the proper supplementation and the proper exercise and diet. It's a holistic approach. And that way you don't have to see a physician as often. You don't feel you have chronic pain anymore, or chronic inflammation, and your immune system is better. All right? So please go to my store and get the Myotrol, build up muscle mass. You can use this if you're an athlete. It'll help to recover and help to build muscle. But if you're older and you're not an athlete, this is really important to maintain muscle and to improve your mitochondrial health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I have lots of different supplements. I'm not going to go over them all. I could literally talk for 2 hours on supplements. But the thing is, take charge of your life. Americans think big, all right? It's about merit. It's not about color. It's not about sex. It's not about, social economic birthright or anything like that. Do big things. Learn a skill, be ambitious, and do big things. That's what America's all about. Thank you for listening. For the ones that are on Spaces, thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll end this broadcast and do another one shortly here. But thank you. Just be positive. America has a great future going out 250 years. It's going to be a little bumpy at times, just like the last 250 years. But big things are going to happen. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.